Is the body positivity movement a total scam? Are body positivity and fat acceptance harmful to women and to our society? And if so, why? Today, we're going to talk all about body positivity, which has now become synonymous with fat acceptance, the fat acceptance movement. We're going to talk about their impact on our culture, and I'll also tell you about my personal experience writing a lot of content for digital publications that were geared towards women, that were all about body positivity and fat acceptance in some way. And I wrote for some pretty big publications not that many years ago. I started writing probably about 10 years ago, and I quit writing for these publications in 2017. So we're going to talk about that as well, because I'm going to explain to you just how hypocritical the body positivity movement is and just how fraudulent it is. I was on the inside. I saw the editorial rooms. I saw exactly how content is made. I saw how body positivity is pushed. We have seen the body positivity movement take over the world in recent years. Multiple brands, companies, corporations, influencers, celebrities, everybody has been on the body positive train. Everyone loves to virtue signal online and post content about how your worth is not related to how much you weigh. Health is available at every size. There's no such thing as being obese or fat. It's just the unfair beauty standards in our society that are really harmful to women. And it's really gotten out of control lately. Body positivity. And like I said earlier, it's now synonymous with fat acceptance. And I think it's really important to point out that we have come a long way from the early body positive years, right? In the beginning, body positivity was more about celebrating normal sized bodies. That was really the point of when body positivity hit mainstream society and hit mainstream culture. It was more about celebrating women who are not a size 00. Maybe celebrating a woman's body that has a C-section scar, that has a little bit of cellulite. It was all about normal sized bodies. Because if you think about the 90s, I was a 90s kid, a 90s, early 2000s kid. And any millennial who grew up during this time remembers that all the models were like the Kate Moss type, heroin chic. That's the actual name of the trend. You were super skinny. It looks like all you ate was an apple and coffee and just smoked cigarettes all day long. And you're just rail thin. And that was what we saw in magazines. So the early body positivity movement that hit the mainstream culture was really about rebelling against this unattainable beauty standard, because very few women have figures like that naturally. There are, of course, the genetically blessed that are the supermodels that are super, super skinny. You know, we saw in those early years, the Victoria's Secret angels like Heidi Klum that had these, and Gisele Bündchen that had these beautifully lean figures, and that's just kind of how they were genetically blessed. But most women are not like that. Most women don't look like that. So the early body positivity movement was about celebrating women's normal bodies and encouraging women to be to feel content with the fact that they're not a size 0. And we have now transferred from that pretty quickly. It devolved into celebrating obesity. And HAES, health at every size, that's a very popular hashtag and trend and conversation that is talked about in conjunction with body positivity now. We now have the popular Cosmopolitan magazine cover that the headline is actually, "This is healthy." That's the literal headline. "This is healthy." And it has pictures of morbidly obese people on the cover. And yeah, they're doing some sort of fitness pose or yoga pose, but they're morbidly obese. And the whole message is that this is now the standard for health. And of course, we also saw the Self magazine cover that was about the future of fitness. And it was all about fatness. There were multiple articles in there about how the future of fitness is fatness. And so, and also featuring obese models. And so we're seeing much more of this in the culture today. And it is a bit unrecognizable compared to the early body positive content that we saw and the early body positivity images that we saw, which was about, hey, maybe you're a size 4 or a 6, and that's okay. Maybe you're a size 8, but now it's like you're a size 16 and 18 and you're beautiful, and you have the Tess Hollidays who are morbidly obese. We're not talking about their worth in the world being any less than ours. We're not trying to be cruel or mean by saying that they have a metabolic disorder that manifests and shows up in the way that their body looks, and they're morbidly obese, and we should not be celebrating that. And so it's just gotten out of control. I'm going to show you a TikTok now as an example of just how ridiculous the body positive movement has become, because now we're talking about obesity and, quote, fat phobia being connected to, you guessed it, racism. Let's take a look at this video.
Here's your reminder that fat phobia is rooted in racism. As always, if you haven't read this book, go do that. The main thing to understand is that for the last 300-ish years, white folks have been marketing fatness as a black trait. And this is regardless of whether or not black people individually were actually fat. That was irrelevant. The message they spread was that black women specifically were ravenous and uncontrollable, and these barbaric traits made them fat. On the flip side, thinness was marketed as a white trait. Again, regardless of whether or not individual white people were actually thin, that was irrelevant. The idea was that white women specifically were refined and restrained, and this led them to having delicate, thin bodies. Over the years, these messages have become more subtle, but even today, they are still very prevalent in conversations around race, health, capitalism, and poverty.
Of course, she has blue hair. Of course she does. What other color hair would she have except blue hair? It just irritates me when they talk like that. This is your reminder that fat phobia is rooted in racism. If you haven't read this book, go do that. It's all about racism and poverty. I just hate that tone, that intonation. I digress. So this is what body positivity has become, because guys, did you know that fat phobia is racist now? It's racist to say that obesity is real. It's racist to talk about obesity being a metabolic disorder. It all comes down to racism. Before we even break down this ridiculous word salad, I want to tell you about one of my favorite sponsors today. We're going to talk about the First Form prenatal multivitamins. If you are in your childbearing years as a woman, which means if you have a menstrual cycle, you should be taking prenatal multivitamins every day. And I know it's like, I don't have any plans for pregnancy, or I already had all my kids. It doesn't matter what your plans for pregnancy are. If you have a menstrual cycle, prenatal multivitamins are really important for your hormonal balance, for your cycle, for reducing PMS symptoms, for making sure that your body has all the nutrients that it needs during your childbearing years. These prenatal multivitamins are fantastic. I've been taking them for almost 5 years now, long before I even had my first child. And they're particularly important, of course, if you have plans for pregnancy at all in the near future. Even if you want to have kids in 5 to 10 years, you want to make sure that your body has all the nutrients that it needs. Because if you get that pregnancy test that's positive and you're like, oh, okay, now I'm going to start taking multivitamins, your body is probably already deficient in things like folate and B complex, even vitamin C, etc. So these prenatal multivitamins have folate, not folic acid, which is a very important distinction, ladies. Folic acid is a synthetic form that is not bioavailable to the body. You have to find multivitamins that have folate, which is what these prenatal multivitamins have. I take them every morning with breakfast. They're fantastic. They're good for energy production, better digestion, of course, supporting your hormones and giving you lots of good energy and making sure that you reduce those PMS symptoms. So if you want to give them a try, click the link in the description in the show notes. And this company is also fantastic. They have a 110% money back guarantee. They're also very openly pro-America and patriotic. It's a win-win-win. Vote with your dollar. Support this company. They also have great products. Okay, so this TikTok, you can see here that body positivity has been taken over by pseudo-intellectuals who now claim that racism is the cause of everything. And, like I said, it's just a word salad. She throws in words like capitalism and poverty and, of course, racism. And she's pretending like it's this intellectual coverage of the history of racism and how it relates to the way we talk about obesity today. It's nonsense. People will literally come up with any excuse to not accept personal responsibility for their health. They will come up with any excuse to not admit that obesity is unhealthy. And people actually believe this nonsense. But here's the thing for me. We don't have time for this. We don't have time to sit around and discuss whether obesity or fat phobia is rooted in racism. We don't have time to entertain these word salads that come from the ivory towers of academia. We don't have time for that. You know why? Because we have been facing a public health crisis for the past several decades of dangerously high rates of obesity that are still rapidly rising. Nearly half of American adults are obese today. The rates of childhood obesity are skyrocketing. We are in the middle of a public health crisis. Forget the 2020 public health crisis that shut the whole country down. The rates of obesity are much more dangerous. So we do not have time for this. We don't have time to entertain these TikToks and these influencers who just want to virtue signal online and connect things like fat phobia and racism. It's total nonsense. And it actually makes me really upset because as somebody who works with women who want to improve their health, want to lose weight, want to shed excess body fat, and as someone who used to be 50 pounds overweight, I don't know why we're wasting time like this. I don't know why we're even entertaining these ideas. It's so unhealthy to encourage people to be content in their obesity and in their poor health. And then again, you look at all of the rates of obesity and the rates of chronic illness. 6 out of every 10 Americans today have one chronic illness. 4 out of every 10 have 2 or more chronic illnesses. Oh, and not to mention, I forgot to mention the real kicker here is that obesity is the leading cause of the leading causes of death. It's the leading contributor to things like stroke, heart attack, heart disease, many types of cancers, type 2 diabetes. Why are we wasting our time talking about how fat phobia is rooted in racism? Just stop. It's nonsense. We don't have time. Help people get healthy. If you actually care about people, if you actually care about improving people's lives and not just virtue signaling on the internet, help them lose weight. Tell the truth, because remember, truth is inseparable from real compassion. All these people who pretend like they care, we don't want to insult people of color. We don't want to insult obese individuals. So we need to change our language. You care more about insulting them. I care more about them being healthy. And I'm the bad guy. We're the bad guys because we want to actually solve the public health crisis of obesity in this country. But I think that we are seeing a bit of a turn in the culture. I think people are starting to rebel against this body positivity, fat acceptance nonsense. And I think people are particularly tired and exhausted of having images of obese people shoved in their faces 24/7 and being told that they must find this beautiful, that this is the new beauty standard. For example, this picture is from the Instagram of Fenty, which is Rihanna's beauty brand. I think I have one Fenty product. I think I have her bronzer, but it's a very, very popular beauty brand. And they posted this 2 weeks ago. As you can see here now, for those of you who are just listening to the audio, I'll describe the photo. The photo is from the woman's mouth down to her belly button. So you can't see her eyes. And all she's wearing is a gold bikini top that's matching. If you can't really see, you can see the string on the side, matching bottoms of the bikini. She's holding what looks like maybe it's an eyeliner or a mascara or a lip gloss or something. And she's morbidly obese. I'm just describing what's in the photo. I'm not trying to be mean. She has the fat rolls right under the breasts that look like a second pair of breasts, like the upper belly part. You know what I'm talking about for those of you who can't see. And if you look at the comments on this photo, people are not having it. There's backlash to this. They're sick of this. They're kind of disgusted by this. The very first comment I see is unfollow. And then the second comment I see is, okay, I know it's supposed to be all real bodies. Yes. But what the F is this picture promoting? Let's read some other comments. Plus size is not healthy. I can say that. I'm obese with a myriad of health problems. Been exercising and eating right. Good for her. Best of luck to you. Another person said, I don't get it. What is the point of this picture? And then you have some people who are like, I love the body diversity of this campaign. And then there's another woman who said, as a morbidly obese woman, we need to stop normalizing being this big. It's not healthy. I know it's a struggle because I go through it daily, but I don't accept normalizing this. And then some people are like, this representation is so refreshing. Have you ever noticed when they talk about representation, they only care about one type of body being represented, and that's the morbidly obese, metabolically unhealthy body. If you want to talk about representation, where are all the normal size women, like size 4, size 6, size 8? Where are they? They're never in the campaigns. It's always either heroin chic, starving herself, only had an apple for breakfast, or it's the morbidly obese woman who's eating herself to death. So don't talk to me about representation. This isn't about representation. This is just about showing fat bodies and pretending like it's totally normal. So the comments are all, it's a mixed bag, but there are a lot more comments in here than expected that are critical of this. Somebody said, just why? Someone said, this is promoting obesity. Someone said, what are you advertising? This is just exploiting the woman for attention. I love all people, but it's just unhealthy. Sorry, not sorry. So what's happening here is that people are feeling more and more comfortable speaking out against this nonsense because, like I said earlier, they're sick and tired of having these images shoved down their eyeballs. Nobody wants to see this stuff. I don't mean this. I'm not trying to be cruel. And I know there's going to be plenty of people in the comments talking about how mean I am and how hateful and fatphobic I am. I honestly don't care at this point. I haven't cared for a long time because this is not useful and helpful and productive for anybody. It's not good for this woman. It's not good for people watching. It's not good for the half of Americans that are morbidly obese and struggling with their health. I don't want to see people dying. I don't want to see people unhealthy. I want to see people thriving and healthy. And of course, again, we're the bad guys because we want that. But it's interesting to me that people are speaking up and they're making it very clear to these brands that they don't like this stuff anymore. It's not inspiring. It's not even about realistic bodies anymore because they say, these brands and campaigns, they say, we're all about showing realistic images of bodies. But this is not that. This is not realistic and normal. It is not normal or healthy or aspirational to post these kinds of images of a woman who is struggling with a metabolic disorder. Okay, this is not about bashing that woman's worth. She's maybe a lovely person. She has plenty of self-worth, just as much as you and I do. But the fact of the matter is, this kind of obesity, and you have to listen very carefully to this because this matters. When your midsection looks like that, when someone has a very, very large midsection, that points to hormonal disorders and it points to visceral fat that lives around the organs and it's metabolically active. When you have that kind of visceral fat that's metabolically active around the organs, that's deadly. That's extremely dangerous. This is not just like superfluous, oh, you have a little bit of extra arm fat. No, that points to real metabolic disorders and real hormonal dysfunction. It's not good to promote that and put it online and pretend like it's beautiful and normal. It's the same thing as if you were showing a diverse group of bodies and you wanted to show a heroin addict shooting up in their arm. Oh, this is a diverse celebration of bodies. This is a diverse celebration of habits and activities. Someone's shooting up or someone's getting drunk, an alcoholic just drinking themselves into oblivion. It's not normal and it's not realistic. We should not point to this as realism. And the frustrating thing is people act like there are only two extremes. Well, it's not healthy to show a size 0 rail thin anorexic model. Okay, first of all, anorexia is actually not a leading cause of death in this country. And secondly, nobody said we want to promote anorexia. But people are dishonest and disingenuous. They're acting like those are the only two options. No one is telling you to only put anorexic models in your campaigns. They act like it either has to be morbidly obese and metabolically dysfunctional, or it's the starving anorexic model. It's dishonest to claim that's what we're saying. That's not what we're saying. You don't need to only post anorexic models. But I will say, if I have to have a choice, if we're going to have a choice of skinny models versus morbidly obese, I don't know why we're not taking the former instead of the latter. But it's not even like those are our only two options. Those aren't the only two options. There are plenty of models out there who are beautiful with stunning figures and aspirational figures that are not unhealthy. But this backlash to the Fenty ad is indicative of a broader shift in our culture where people are happily watching the downfall of body positivity. And now I want to point to someone like Lizzo. Lizzo has long been a body positive activist. I even hate that term, body positive activist, but that's what she's labeled as. And she's known for showing her body in inappropriate places all the time. She's constantly naked online. She shows up to basketball games with her butt literally hanging out. Remember that a few years ago, showed up to a basketball game and she was wearing like this lingerie where it was a cutout of her butt cheeks, or her butt was just bare, and she was like twerking in front of families and children at a basketball game. And then remember, she posted that video of herself walking up to her private jet, her entire butt just naked, like just hanging out. And you know how I said earlier that body positivity has become synonymous with fat acceptance? Body positivity has also become synonymous with ratchet nude photos. I don't know why. Why has it become synonymous with exposing your naked body for the world to see in front of kids and minors online too? Like why? I don't understand why it's so important for you to show your naked body in order to show that you're proud of it. I don't know why that's necessary. So Lizzo, for example, she's one of those body positive queens. But remember the lawsuit that came out against Lizzo? She lost a lot of support because there was some kind of lawsuit filed by her former dancers. And this trio of dancers alleges that Lizzo and her team subjected them to religious and racial harassment, false imprisonment, and weight shaming, among other offenses. Incidents cited include disparaging remarks about one of the dancers' weight and coercive explicit activities in an Amsterdam club. So apparently, like, she coerced her dancers to do some sexually explicit things in a club in Amsterdam. And then there was things like a wrongful termination, alleged wrongful termination. And then the lawsuit demands compensation for emotional trauma, unpaid wages, and other related costs, but didn't state a specific amount. And then there was an Oscar-nominated filmmaker who came out and talked about Lizzo's abuse of power and disrespectful behavior and said that her working environment was toxic and she mistreated a lot of her employees and dancers. And then more dancers came out on TikTok and talked about how toxic Lizzo is and how rude she was, And when all of this came out, more and more people were starting to realize that the leaders of body positivity, they have propped up a movement that preys on insecure women who are unhappy with the way that they look. So this is why I always say body positivity is kind of like, it reminds me sort of that toxic, abusive ex-boyfriend who just preys on the insecure girlfriend. And he just like picks away at all the things that she's most insecure with and controls what she does. Remember when like Adele lost weight and everyone was really mad at her? Everyone in the body positive movement, they were like, how dare you lose weight and not be our fat queen anymore? And now Adele looks amazing. She looks incredible. People were mad about that. It's like they're trying to control her behavior because God forbid she gets healthy. But, Lizzo and other proponents of fat acceptance like Tess Holliday are now seen as accomplices in a corrupt game of deception. Even a lot of people, young Gen Zers who are chronically online, they're supportive of a lot of celebrities. They are not happy with what's going on with these body positive influencers anymore because they're realizing that they're being presented with this toxic fake narrative about self-acceptance. Because I think we're slowly swinging the pendulum back. I think we're starting to realize that at the end of the day, we are attracted to beauty. And I'm talking about real beauty. I'm not talking about superficial beauty like the Bella Hadid that has been sculpted in a plastic surgeon's office. I mean real beauty, which is inseparable from truth. What's that Dostoevsky quote? Beauty and truth quote. Let me see if I can find it. But it's basically something like beauty and truth are inseparable. I forgot what it is. But beauty and truth are inseparable. That's the point I'm trying to make here. And I think people are finally starting to realize that, which is why I want to talk about how fraudulent and hypocritical the body positive movement is, because it claims to be supportive of women. It claims to be the champions of women and to help women overcome their insecurity. But what it actually is a very toxic game that women play online to keep other women down, to keep them unhealthy, to keep them unhappy and stuck in this vicious cycle of coming back for more encouragement, for more fake encouragement. But it's really nothing more than keeping them in this toxic mindset of overeating, feeling guilty they overate, then coming back and being told that it's okay to be overweight. It's the beauty standards that are the problem. It's not you. So I want to tell you about my experience working for these digital media companies that were really the drivers behind the body positivity movement. But first, I want to tell you about my Fit and Lean 10-week weight loss program. So I run a group coaching program and I open up spots every month, a small group where we work on nutrition, workouts, lifestyle habits. And for anyone who wants to lose 10 pounds in 10 weeks, maybe you've struggled a lot in the past and you don't know exactly what to eat and what to do. I have spots now open for my Fit and Lean program. You're going to get coaching calls with me. You're going to get a sample meal plan, a workout book, a recipe book, and a lot of guidance weekly from me to help you figure out what to eat, what not to eat, how much protein to eat, how many workouts to do, etc. And I've had so much success lately. A lot of women have lost 10 pounds in 10 weeks. Most of them have lost even more. It just depends on what your goals are and where you're starting from. But I love what I do because I see so many success stories, especially a lot of moms come in and they've had a lot of frustration. They don't know what to do and they feel like they keep doing the wrong thing. I will help you figure out what works. I will help you figure out how to keep the weight off too and make it sustainable. So if you're interested to join, please sign up before spots fill up. Go to the show notes, click the link in the description, and we'd love to have you. Okay, so about 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, in 2013, I started writing freelance for some very popular women's digital magazines. It's not really a secret. You can probably go look it up. These are the types of publications that we're bringing in and still probably bring in millions and millions of unique views a month. And around this time I started writing for these publications, it was about the time where we're seeing a lot of legacy media companies losing traffic, and the more lifestyle generated publications that also did news and culture stuff that were geared towards women, they were starting to take over a lot of the online traffic. So I just started freelancing, pitching some stories, and then it eventually turned into a part-time writing role with one of these major media companies. And they would send me articles to write every week, like a list of things to choose from. And a lot of them were SEO, SEO driven articles, a lot of search engine stuff, things that women would Google online. And I started to write a lot of body positivity content because it was of high demand at that point. There were a lot of women who wanted to read body positive stuff. And then eventually I started working full time for one of these companies and eventually another company. And I was inside the belly of the beast. And let me tell you a little secret about these companies that pump out a ton of body positive content. None of the women writing about fat acceptance and body positivity are overweight. All of them are thin, fit. They go to SoulCycle or Barry's Boot Camp, or they run half marathons. They watch what they eat. They like to eat quinoa bowls and kale salads and eat organic. Many of them are like, vegan or whatever. And they would never in a million years dream about being a size 14. They're like a size 2, a size 4. These are the people who are pumping out body positive content to you. They want you to be fat. They want you to be overweight. They want you to celebrate your obesity, but they're going to lose weight so that they can vacation, in Mexico or on the beach and look hot in their bikini. But they want you to feel confident as a size 16 person who is struggling with your metabolic health. And the more I looked around, I was like, there was literally nobody in my editorial room. I was a fitness editor. So I was the one who was writing and editing and publishing all the content about fitness, health, nutrition, body positivity, fat acceptance. And none of the people on the team who were writing this content were fat. We would all go for workouts together. We would all eat healthy together. And then I looked around a lot of the other competing companies, a lot of these other publications that were our competitors. And I looked at those writers. Lo and behold, every time I saw an article about fat acceptance or body positivity, I clicked on the author, and she's thin. She's usually some marathon runner, some healthy girl who is like, loves to eat her steak and a side of salad, would never dream again of being a size 14. And I realized how sinister the whole thing was, because we were even getting orders from the editorial directors and the executives to be careful with our language and to not encourage women to lose weight in our articles, because sometimes that would be really offensive. I remember one experience in particular. A coworker of mine was writing an article about PCOS. She was writing about how one of the ways that you can mitigate the symptoms of PCOS is you can lose weight. And the editorial director took that out, and they're like, nope, you can't put that in there. That's not allowed. That's offensive. That's insulting. And so it was little things like that. And that's why I'm somewhat convinced that hot girls invented body positivity so that the overweight fat girls could stay overweight and fat, and they wouldn't be competitors for them in the dating pool. I know it's like kind of not a serious allegation, but it would make sense. Like at this point, Why are we promoting these unhealthy standards for other women, but we want to be the healthy ones? So that was one of the main reasons why I quit in 2017. I was like, this industry is so toxic and volatile, and it's so hypocritical, and it's sinister. It really is evil. Like, we want you, we're gonna get married before having kids, and we're not gonna abort our children. We're gonna be healthy, but we want you to have abortions. We want you to do hookup culture. We want you to be fat. It is so evil. And this is what is driving the body positivity movement. It is totally fraudulent. It is a total scam. So the more that we can reject it, the more that we can encourage women to be healthy and to shed excess body fat when it's time. Nobody's saying you have to be a size 0, but if you are overweight, and if you know you are, your life will get immediately better. Your hormonal cycle will improve. Your fertility will improve. Everything will improve if you lose excess body fat and if you take care of yourself. So that's all I have for today. I would love to know in the comment section what you guys think of body positivity. You might have some people who really hate me and you love body positivity. That's fine. Tell me about it. Don't forget to share this episode, like, subscribe. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.